At the edge of an international border, at the edge of the Pacific, at the edge of innovation, community, education, and discovery, you're listening to At the Edge of It All, a University of San Diego podcast where USD experts speak on topics and stories that impact you and the broader community.
Hi, I'm Lisette Martinez.
And I'm Elena Gomez.
And on the next episode of At the Edge of It All, special series The Athletics Edge, we speak with Athletic Director Kimya Massey about the world of technology and sports.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that we didn't know about, but how professional sports technology is influencing college sports, all the new tech, and how AI is playing a role in athletics as well. So let's take a listen.
Kimya, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here. And today we're going to be talking about sports science.
Awesome. Glad to be here again.
First of all, what does sports science mean to you?
Oh, sports science, that's a very broad scope. You can paint that brush a long ways. Sports science for college athletics, I think, has changed a lot, and it's continuing to morph. You know, it used to be more like, GPS, heart rate type things and things of that nature. And now we're into like heavy data analytics. There's a lot of different programs out there, multiple different sports use on a daily basis to really get a sense of sort of how their athletes are performing, but also how they're doing physically, mentally, emotionally, socially in certain ways too. So there's a whole science behind load and how much are we practicing and when do we need to slow down versus pick it up, and maybe we need a day off here, or when you get into a game, when this person in basketball hits minute 20, typically their production goes down by 20% or what have you. So there's so many predictors that are very science-based, but it's interesting to see the juxtaposition between what's now analytics or science-based versus in the past was more instinctual, especially as a coach, because how do you use all this new data? But it's a broad scope of what sports science
how
is.
granular can you get? I mean, for us, I don't know anything about this. I mean, how does this all work?
You can get really granular. Let me give you two examples. So let's say you're a baseball pitcher. And in baseball, let's say I throw a fastball, a curveball, and a changeup. And I'm a starting pitcher. So it's maybe the fifth or sixth inning. Every single pitch I'm throwing is being tracked. How many miles per hour it was, where the location was. And also now there's different equipment that can pick up how fast the spin rate is of the ball. So those three pitches, fastball, curveball, slider, changeup, doesn't matter. They all have different spin rates. So you're now at a point where it's the fifth inning and you've thrown 85 pitches, and now your spin rate has changed for your curveball. Your spin rate might be different for your fastball. And if your spin rate changes, maybe the hitter is able to pick it up faster, and now you're getting hit. Whereas the first 4 or 5 innings you were cruising. So now, after a few games of data, your coach might say, okay, we're in the fifth inning. His spin rate and his curveball typically goes down to this RPM. We need to just keep a watch on him, because the minute he gets a hit, a double against him, we got to get him out of there. It's that granular. Maybe another example is basketball, specifically around a player's what we call their load and how many minutes they log. So they're playing in a game, and they're a post player, and they're averaging 12 points and 8 rebounds. But you can see once they get past minute 16, 17, their productivity goes down. There's a bunch of data around how well they play defense, and their opponent is scoring X amount of points against them past minute 18. When they get to that point, we got to sub them out. Or their shooting percentage goes down past a certain minutes played, because maybe their fitness isn't quite where it needs to be. So it gets that granular where now the coaches make substitution decisions based on data that they're getting from the science side. And I always like to say you also have to infuse the heart and the head. Certain athletes just have this incredible passion, and they're just going to find a way to get it done, right? And coach, let me get this one hitter, or leave me in for this possession. I can get it done. So there's that balance now that coaches have to say, okay, the data's telling me this, but the result is telling me that. And I've seen this particular athlete go out there and just find a way to get it done.
Well, I was going to ask you that. I mean, how reliant is industry getting, when it comes to technology? I mean, how much of a balance do we actually need? I mean, as an athletic director, how do you see things? I'm assuming it works, because obviously it exists, and professional teams and other colleges and universities use it all the time. But we had fantastic results back in the day when it was old school stuff, right? So where do you see things?
I do think it's valuable, and you see it in every sport now.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately, you see it in pretty much every sport in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You see it tons in golf, softball, baseball, football, and a lot of it again is around also the athlete's ability to continue playing in that particular quarter, game, etc. And do we need to rest them or not? And they'll even do this in practice. Like they'll literally get them all wired up in practice, and they get some data from practice. So I think as an athletic director, I do think it's important that we allow our coaches to have the ability to use technology. Ultimately, I hire them to be head coaches. I trust them. I'll never tell them who to play and how much to play and what offense to run. That's not my job. My job is to get good humans, good people who care about athletes, care about how we impact their lives. And then I trust them to figure out what technology do I need or not, and how do I go about my practices. And we do work together a lot of times on scheduling, make sure we're scheduling correctly. But ultimately, actually this past year, I think that's a gap for us, frankly. We don't have as much sports science as a lot of schools do. So I've asked them to bring to me, tell me everything you're doing already, but what would you like to do, like in your ideal world?
Right.
Let's look at costs. Let's pull that all together, and let's figure out a solution. We need a sports science program, and we really don't have one, and I think that's something that can allow you to either catch up or get ahead if you're doing it effectively and able to understand the data and articulate it in an easy way for the 18 to 23-year-olds we work with to understand, to not overthink, but here are some other resources that you can use when you're in competition or practice to be successful.
I feel like when you go watch any sort of professional sports, there's always the stats, right? You go to the Petco Park and you see the stats on the board, and whether you know what it is or not, you see them. Do you think that pro sports have been different than college sports? Are we using the same kind of technology, or are we behind, ahead of what professional sports are doing, or how does that all work?
Yeah, really good question. We're way behind, although I would say some of the Power 4 schools and some of the schools with more resources have probably caught up to what professional sports are doing. But professional sports have been ahead of this for a long time. And because of professional sports, you're literally investing in the person. You're paying them a value to perform. And the performance of the organization is based on the value of the person performing. So it's in your best interest to ensure that they're remaining on the field, they're not getting injured, or if they do get injured, they get back quicker. So they invested in all this technology years ago to be able to say, okay, injuries happen, right? It just does. So how can we get that person back on the field faster and effective so they can help us win? Or how do we keep that person on the field and not, hopefully they don't get hurt? It's wild. And then you guys have heard the book Moneyball? Yes. Yeah, Oakland A's. Actually, one of my former teammates, Mark Mulder, actually played for that team. And they were a low market, organization, had way less money than the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants, but they found a way to be successful by using analytics to create a lineup of players who were frankly cheaper, but with the metrics and what they could do on the field, they were still fairly successful, and they were able to manage being successful with a much lower payroll. So we're trying to catch up, I think, to the professional ranks. We've got a little ways to go, but they just have way more resources, and we're not professional, although we're moving towards that. Whereas pro sports, like these are, they're literally their whole investments into that person or that individual. So it's just a different situation a little bit.
How is technology changing sort of behind the scenes with what you're seeing, and also with the fan experience? Is there any tech involved in that?
And also artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's really big right now. How is it working in sports?
You're now offering fans opportunities to engage in different ways well ahead of the game. A lot of schools, and you're going to see this coming with Toreros real soon. We're going to have an app now that you'll be able to download.
Is this an exclusive?
No, this is something that most schools have been doing for a while, but with our new ticketing partner, we'll have an app. It'll be like a Torero app, and you can download it. But it's going to tell you everything you need to know. It's going to be all our schedules for all of our games and matches and how the results are. It's going to have content, so video content, interviews, photography content, all that will be on there, but also has tickets. So you can buy tickets online. Just click a button, go. Also has know before you go. What are the things you need to do? Like, is there a clear bag policy? That's a way that fans can now engage and just really get a head start on what the weekend looks like or what 5 months looks like.
Right.
So that's one way. But then there's also like the in-game experience. You see just all this technology you can wear and look at the game in 3D, and you can look at it in so many different ways. You can actually be the person on the field. I mean, when you go to like a professional sports environment, there's so much technology that the fan can immerse themselves in and actually feel like you're in the game. College really isn't that far down that path. I've seen it in a couple of places, but I don't know if that's become prevalent because of the cost. But I do think that there are a lot of technological influences now around on a basic level, even like Wi-Fi and certain club levels. Like if you go to some places that have premium level seating, you have your own specific Wi-Fi, and you can order from your seat, concessions and things like that. So again, professionals, they're way ahead of us, but we're catching up, and I think it's just finding the right solution that makes sense for your particular institution at that time.
We touched on it a little bit, but AI, I mean, we're hearing a lot about it. How are you using it to sort of enhance the efficiency of what you're doing in athletics?
Yeah, I think we're also learning how to utilize AI effectively and to do it the right way. It's obviously a buzzword. It's something that's happening on college campuses and across the globe. For us, more it's probably on the creative side, digital, video content, things like that. I do think there's some efficiencies there where AI can create some models that are created in a way that we ultimately have to edit, revise before we go out publicly with things. But there are some efficiencies in how you utilize it. And I think understanding how it actually works in a way that's going to basically complement what you're already doing is really the goal. But I do think there's still a learning curve in terms of how do we use it effectively and use it with integrity, which is really important.
Well, this is all very exciting territory. I'm sure we're going to hear so much more in the next couple months, in the next couple years here at USD even. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to catch the next one.